Of course I can. Today I have a certificate and a matching 4x6 photo that I'm going to scrapbook. And the first thing that I'm going to suggest that you do if you want to scrapbook a certificate, and that's a little bit of a different item for you to put in your album, is to consider going with the stationery approach. And by that I mean things that look like file folders or tabs or something that kind of emphasizes the fact that you are scrapping something that's not a photograph, and you can just kind of run with that metaphor. So I have this pattern paper from an older Disney themed Simple Stories collection, and I'm going to use that as my background, and I really want to keep this top bit so that I can add in the certificate from Disneyland and have it fit that theme. So I'm going to clip this on so that it looks like it's filed away in that file folder. But what I don't love about this pattern paper is this design at the bottom. I'm just not hugely keen on the title being already printed onto the page and everything. So I'm going to pretend like this is just a craft cardstock sheet, and I'm going to add embellishment and things over the top of this so that I won't know it's there once the page is finished. I have the photo as well, and it's really lovely of Disney that they have not only made these little certificates, so if you have a child or an adult, hey, who is obsessed with trains, you can visit Disneyland and become engineer of the day, basically by showing an undying love of steam engines, is what happened with us. And the certificate is not only lovely that they will give it to you, but also that they have color coordinated it with the train. So please share in my scrapbooking excitement that the paper ephemera matches the photo. Thank you, Disney. You get a lot of things right, and this is one of them. Okay, if you want to include ephemera like this that's paper and you're worried that it will fade, or it's a newspaper clipping and you're worried the paper will degrade or anything like that, just a little side note here. There are products to help you with that. You can spray it with something called archival mist, and I just did a search and I can find it on Amazon in the US, no problem. I didn't find it online in the UK. But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I just didn't find it on a really quick search on Amazon. There's also an archival spray from Krylon, but the two work differently, and I haven't used the one from Krylon, and the reviews all say make sure you use it outside. So that's not a great contender for my scrapbooking because I don't have a garden, but it's not impossible to go outside, of course, and just do it on the pavement here. Either of those could be an option, especially if you're working with newsprint, which does degrade quicker than other paper. But the other thing that I tend to do with certificates, and it's what I've done with this, is that I photograph the piece so that if something were to happen, it gets lost, it gets ruined, it falls apart, it fades away, whatever it could be, I have a digital backup that's not giving me extra stuff to file. Yeah, I don't want to make a color photocopy of this just that I have another paper copy, because if I did that, then I would just be in stacks and stacks of paper, right? If I took every important or lovely piece of paper that I've ever come across and made a backup copy. But for special things like this, I can put it in my photo library, and then I can file it with the photos. Also, filing photos of your ephemera with your photos helps jog your mind when you go to print the photos that, oh yeah, I have ephemera that I wanted to put on the page with that. That's a whole other part of the process, but sometimes I end up with a big bag of ephemera from a trip and I forget that I was going to scrapbook it, and eventually I go, oh, what am I going to do with all this, because I've scrapbooked all the photos and I still have all the maps and tickets and everything else. So sometimes photographing it and keeping it with the photos then gives me that reminder that I wanted to put it in my album. Okay, let's actually scrap rather than just talking. Okay, so the biggest thing I want to do is, instead of gluing this or matting this or treating it like a photo, is I'm going to treat it like a piece of paper that's going to be filed. And I'm going to do that with a paper clip. The lovely background there tells me that this is an older 2013 piece from Evilicious. So I'm going to clip that onto the side. And of course you could use plain paper clips too, but I have this cute one with a heart and an arrow, so I might as well use that. And I might just put a tad of adhesive over here just to keep it in place, but I'm mostly going to go with that idea. Okay, this paper collection has lots of red and black and a bit of yellow, and I have some scraps from it here. But to go with both the train and the certificate, I wanted to bring in some green. So I have this green B-side from Go Now Go. It's the back of Journey, which is all the different passport stamps. So I think I'll start by matting this photo with the green. I think I might prefer the stripes this way for matte. And I also thought that I could use at least one of these postcards to be clipped up as well and really emphasize that idea. If I'm going to start with a little kind of gimmick, as it were, like, oh, it's file folders and I'm pretending this is on a file, I might as well just go whole hog. And so I might as well clip in other things that look like stationery. I should go look in my stash for other things that look like tabs and stuff like that and pile it all on, obviously within restraint of however much embellishment you like on your page, and I'm going to put however much I like on my page. But I like the idea of, if you do pick something that's going to be a theme, just run with it and use all the supplies that you would like. So I have 3 smaller pieces of paper here that I'm going to start with for building things, and I may add in some more. I don't want to ink the certificate because I don't really want to change it in any way. I want to leave it as it came. But I think the papers to go behind the photo will benefit from having the ink, so I'm going to add the brown ink just to give them a little bit more of a defined edge, where I have these papers that are a little bit more distressed and antiqued than what I tend to use, especially this brown postcard. So I think having that defined edge will just help it blend in with everything else in my album and not look quite so washed out. Now, let's see. I think I can put this right down to the bottom of the page, almost, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of craft showing there. And let's see how this looks. I've left this because this is a pale paper, and this is it's just sort of in the middle because it has a range of shades, but it does have this odd stripe of the darker green. So I've placed this lighter edge so it's on the darker green stripe, so that if you do see it, and I am going to put a photo on here in just a second, and I may end up covering this all up, but my thought is that then you get the clear distinction, the high contrast of the light pattern here against the darker part of the pattern. It just makes it more clear that it is a different piece of paper. Okay, so I want to have this postcard and this photo. And I think what I'll do is the photo is going to overlap this bottom edge of the certificate with the top edge of the photo, but I won't have any adhesive on there. I don't know why I'm too worried about getting adhesive on the certificate. It's not like it's a diploma from Oxford, but for some reason, for now, I just would like to have it in case, you know, that same idea. What if I did have a piece of paper that I would really want to remove at some other time in life? It's possible. Okay, so I've covered up, basically I'm realizing I've covered up all the colorful stars, but I think I'm okay with that. You might not be. If that just made you cringe, then don't do it yourself. Okay. And I liked the idea of adding another clip, but if I turn this around so that the arrow points the other way, now my heart is upside down. But I could use the clip on the other side. Okay, that's what I'll do. And since I have the gray here, I might as well use the gray paper clip. So now I have this framing, just subtle framing of having the paper clip down here. One points to the photo. I'm going to try and bring it up a little bit so it's pointing closer to his eye line, so that it helps get your attention to his face in the photo. And this one up here, I might bring this one down a little bit. Okay. Now I want to add in some space for journaling, and I'm going to use this journaling stamp. Now this journaling stamp set, this is from Go Now Go, and if you can see there, you get a circle stamp and a rectangle, and you get these little pieces. The little pieces fit in this box so that you can use it in the style of a passport stamp, where when you travel in and out of a country, many countries will have it denote how you came in or went out, if you are arriving by plane, by train, by boat, that sort of thing. And admittedly, not everyone who scrapbooks is going to be using, planes, trains, and boats and things like that all the time. So it might seem a silly stamp set at first, but I will tell you, I have got so much more use out of this by treating it not literally. I'm not worried about crossing country lines. I've done things like riding the little train at the shopping center. You know, the one that you put your money in and your child is very, very excited because you've just spent all your money and they get to ride on a ride for like 45 seconds. Yeah, well, if that's a train then and you took a picture, you can use this little train stamp either on its own. You could stamp it lots of times to make a border, or you can stamp it into this little journaling box if you're going to journal on your page. Yay! So even if you are not taking a train cross country or across Europe or anything like that, you might still find this stamp set useful. So just thought I would share. I've been using it a lot more than I expected. I expected to, when I started, I would use it on travel pages, and I have used it a lot more on things like those coin-operated machines. Okay, so stamp and some brown ink. And then I'm going to pop the train in there. I suppose Disney is travel, but I don't know, Disney always feels like a different type of travel. That's one way to put it. It's kind of its own subgenre, and the normal travel scrapbooking rules need not apply. You can use them if you want, but you don't have to. Okay. And little train. And he's going to fit in that little box. And of course you could do the train in a different color if you want. You could emboss the train if you want it to be extra special. But that's what it looks like. And then I'm going to cut that out. Really easy to cut out since it's just a simple rectangle. And you can punch out or die cut the one that's a circle if you prefer. And add this into the page. Here's my journaling piece, but I feel like I'm going to end up with this area that's a little bit washed out and lacking in color. So I think I will bring in some other things to help pull it together. And I've pulled out some very old stickers from Soho Gardens, which is an old American crafts collection. But because they have a nice clear red and black and some cream, and I thought that would work really well with the Disney theme. So I thought, also it has stationery type look to it with the red tabs, on different colored tabs. So I'm going to start by adding that red tab there, so that now this is a more officey piece. And I'm just trying to decide if I want to bring this in to this spot here, but it's really going to be a bit cramped if I bring this in here and still want that whole quote to show. I think I would have to bring it up here. Yeah, it's just looking a little bit too busy. So what if it's over here a bit? Well, now that works, but I've got all of this cream here. I do need some more color. I was wondering about layering this ledger sticker behind, but that is a lot more cream. It only has that little bit of brown. What if I brought something a bit more bold, like this red Disney-ish circle? I think I can just cut it down so it will sit behind there. I may regret that red. Oops, sorry. I may regret that red because it's not going to be a perfect match here. Let's see what we can do. So, what happens? Build a little bit behind here, and I wondered about bringing in this one as well. behind there. Of course, because building it on top would have been really simple. Building underneath requires picking things up. So of course I'm going to do it that way. I would never have done it the nice, easy way. That would just have been not enough work. Okay. Now, this comes in here. Is that starting to be a bit better? And I think yes. I do think I'm still going to tuck that in. Yep, and to get the dimension, I'm going to add, whoops, need that a little bit lower, a pop dot just behind one corner. So the bottom will be adhered flat. But it starts to look more like things are stacked up on a desk if there is just a bit more dimension, and that helps. Okay. Other tabs. I should look up what day of the week this was, and maybe I still have that day of the week left, and I could use that as a tab. Whoop! Turns out it was Tuesday, and I still have Tuesday. So that's good. Oh, this was originally a border sticker, so I need to cut this apart. So that's another little tab that I can add in so that it feels a bit more like a running theme. And do I want to add one more up here perhaps? Or one more over here? Let's see about, let's add that green, but I think this, yeah, that green is too yellow for what's there. Right. Pieces like this, if you're using them in a mini book or at the top of a page where you're going to see the back, then they are handy because you can, oh, you know what I should do? Here, sorry. They're handy because you'll see both sides and it'll be nice and clean so that you do see both sides. But if you are not going to see both sides, then you can cut it apart and have two pieces. Now, what I've realized I should have done is this. So I have the black label there in the middle. I can have a red label on this one and a red label on this one. I can have, could have a black label on this postcard, but I think it's too much. Yeah, okay, I'll put the black one back. Okay, now, titles on certificate pages are tough. And the reason is because you've already got all this big fancy lettering. What am I going to write on this page that isn't already there on the certificate? And I don't really want to just repeat what's on the certificate. I don't want to, write Engineer of the Day in letter stickers elsewhere when it's already displayed there nicely. So if you're going to use a title at all, I would suggest something small and simple rather than trying to add a big title as well as a big certificate to the same page. Or if you do want to include a big title, make it a double page layout where one page is the certificate and one page is the photo and the journaling and the title. And then just use embellishment and pattern to bring the two together. So I think what I'm going to do is to just use the word yay up here. Very, very simple. But also sums up his thoughts on this entire train-related matter entirely. So it's subtle, but it really is part of the story for us. And I was trying to think of other titles before I decided to go with something so small. I did think of things, and I was going to those things that could be for so many things. Good times, good day, exciting times, all that sort of thing. And I'm realizing that it's very easy for me to fall back to those titles, and I do want to try to have a little bit of variety, even though so many times now I'm making pages where I'm excited to make the page because he was excited about whatever was happening in the photo. So I'm trying to find synonyms, and yay is definitely a synonym for good times and exciting times and all those other things. Okay, I need to put something in these labels so they don't look completely blank and bonkers. And I do want to have a little bit of embellishment that kind of brings this all together. I wanted it to be something that's green so that I could have that green feel like it brings everything together, because I have the red of the train in a nice little kind of box around the page. So there's some red here. There's the red in the photo. There's red here. There's red here. I know this red is a much brighter red, but I think in the album that will really work, because there is a bright red that mixes with this brick type red on my Disney pages. And you can even see on the train here that there's actually two colors of red on the train. There is this more brick red, and then there's a really bright primary red in some of the trim. So although it might not work on many pages where you have kind of multiple shades of the same color that aren't completely complementary, I think in this case it works with the story. But obviously make the decision with your photos so that it works for you. But for the green and some embellishment to scatter around, I'm going to use these puffy stickers from Go Now Go, and I'm going to choose the green ones, of course. So let's see how I could make a little triangle of green. I don't have 3 all the same. I do have 2 greens that are the same, and then some different ones. So I'm going to try to do all 3 different. And I thought I would have those 2 and bring this one down again toward his eye line. But I do want to add a little something here, and I think it needs to be stamping. I think I can solve all 3 of these little spots using mostly some letter stamps. I'm going to use a set of little letter stamps to fill in some gaps. And just use that same brown ink that I used for the journaling box, and that will help pull that together as well. Since everything else is printed and that one is stamped, it's nice to use the stamping elsewhere so that the texture repeats. Those little letter stamps worked out really well for me, one because they were a good fit, but also because I could use those letter stamps to add in words that he says, well, he said at that point in time. The one thing I am going to do is, I originally had this at his eye line and it felt a little bit too blocky. I'm going to move it down here where it now fits in to this little unit with the stamps, and it frames well so they feel like they go together rather than just being in a similar place on the page and not completely connected. I think I'm nearly done, but I am going to add a little bit more color and sparkle. So I'm going to do that with a couple things. I'm going to add some of these little brown pearls just in a couple places to help these little areas feel like they go together. I'm going to put some up here too. Then I have a little triangle there that kind of outlines this little group of embellishments, and likewise here. I'm not going to do anything in this corner, I'm just going to leave it how it is. But if you wanted more embellishment, this is the next place I would go to, and perhaps making things a little bit more intricate by cutting just part of this so that you could put something behind it, so you could have more tabs or something like that. I'm going to add a little bit of gold mist, but I don't want it on the photo or the certificate. I'm just going to put it around here, basically in the same places that I've just added the pearls. Just because gold looks so nice on the craft, and I think it really brightens it, where it's quite easy for craft and brown accents to get a little bit heavy and distressed, and I still want this to feel light and fun. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop. with my certificate page, and a lot of train love going on. Thanks so much for watching. If you have a certificate that you have already scrapped or that you scrap as a result of this, we would love to see what you're making. You can always share links and photos on our Facebook group. It's called Scrapbook Like a Superhero, and it doesn't have to be related to exactly what Glitter Girl is working on this week. You're welcome to share anything that you've been making there. We also have weekly challenges every week at Shamelle.com, and we talk about those on the Facebook group too. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Happy scrapping!